All right, this is part 2 of the Q&A. This is all questions involving licensing, like sheet music, putting music up on stores, general advice on violin playing and other things, general PSAs about where you can find all of my stuff and why some stuff isn't up on stores. So here we go. You have many Zelda videos on YouTube that I wish were on an album on Apple Music. Ever consider doing a collection or album of Zelda for other formats? So much music from Skyward Sword and Tears of the Kingdom that are incredible. Wish they had their own album I could buy or stream. Yes, so this is kind of a general statement as far as how I choose what music gets released and how I don't. It's kind of not up to me. So generally, a lot of my old stuff is not up because quality control, but generally if I don't release a new recording that I've done on stores, it's either because I have it earmarked for a future album that I'm in the middle of working on. More likely it's because of copyright reasons. It's really complicated how that works, but basically the soundtrack needs to have a certain kind of like official release in the US in order for it to be eligible for licensing. And especially with Nintendo, that is usually kind of a sticky issue. So on the other hand, sometimes soundtracks that were not licensable become licensable later on. This happened with Breath of the Wild, with Mario RPG, which is why I ended up releasing those as albums later on. Skyward Sword is another example where I should be able to license it now, and I do plan to make a Skyward Sword album. It's just kind of a matter of priorities because I have a lot of projects I'm working on right now. Tears of the Kingdom is not currently licensable, but I suspect it may be in the future because of the fact that Breath of the Wild was after a while. So that's why I asked that post asking for ideas, because I always had the idea that hopefully I would be able to release an album someday, and I have a lot of tracks already from it and other ones that I still want to do. So fingers crossed for that. But that's usually the reason, is usually because of legal reasons that I can't release it. Will you ever have a Bandcamp page to buy your music from? I get this question a lot. And let me tell you a little bit more since we're talking about the legalities of music licensing. So normally I have a music distributor. I send them my stuff. They put it on all the stores and then they pay me as sales come in. I don't really have to do anything. It's very simple. And that's how I get my music up on Spotify and iTunes and all of that. But with Bandcamp, they kind of put the onus on you to do it. You have to do it all yourself. If I was doing original music, this would not really be a problem at all. But because I do covers, I have to deal with the licensing, and I have a lot of collaborations, which means I have to deal with revenue splitting. So that's a lot of accounting to figure out. Kind of the same reason I haven't done a physical album is because basically I would need to pay for all of the licensing upfront and then hope I make enough sales to pay myself back later, and also do all the accounting for all of my collaborators and pay them as I go. And I'm just one person. It's a lot of housekeeping to have to deal with, which is not to say I'll never do it. It's just, that's why I put that post out asking if people had any interest in my stuff being on Bandcamp, because if there's enough interest, I will do it, at least maybe for like a new album or something that I think would be worth it. But since I am a small artist, there's a lot of risk for me to do something like that at this point in time. So we'll see. I would like to, but we'll see. Just want to say I love your arrangements. They're super good, and humbly request a song from Final Fantasy Tactics. If you have any requests for me, I do have a suggestion form that I will link below. I don't take requests, but there have been many videos that I've done that I wouldn't have known if they hadn't been suggested to me. So if you have anything that you think would be a really good fit for me, definitely put in the suggestion form, because you never know. I'm always looking for good stuff, and I don't know every single soundtrack that exists, so always looking for new ideas. While we're on the subject of legalities, I just wanted to talk a little about sheet music because I get a lot of sheet music requests. So I've tried to make it really clear. I put in the channel guide, I put in the FAQ on my website. Like, if it's not here, it's not available. But I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that. So basically, I have to get the copyright licensing for my sheet music, which thankfully is easier to do now that I've partnered with Music Notes. Hey everyone, so a few days after I filmed this video, Nintendo issued a massive takedown on all sheet music platforms and stores. So basically half of my catalog on Music Notes, all of my Nintendo arrangements are just gone. Any sheet music for my Nintendo arrangements is off the table for the foreseeable future, unless something changes, which unfortunately I don't see happening. There's really no way for me to legally publish them anymore, and I definitely don't want to risk trying to do it under the table since Nintendo is getting really serious with these takedowns. Thankfully, easier to do now that I've partnered with Music Notes, but if it's not released, I don't have it. It takes a lot of work to prepare sheet music for publication. I did my best to make sure all of the popular stuff that I thought people would want to play are up. All of the like live string quartet recordings are available. But these days, like, me doing sheet music for my newer stuff is a little trickier for a few reasons. Some collaborators that I work with, we co-write our arrangements, which means I don't have the rights to distribute those myself, and I don't really have an easy way to sell them with them either. For example, anything that I do with Purple Shala, we typically write our own parts. I don't even have the piano part, so I don't really have access to that to give to anyone. Two, a lot of my music in the beginning was kind of like live string quartet and such, and I have made sure to make those available. But as I've learned more about production and gotten creative with arranging and stuff, you know, sometimes my tracks are like 100 tracks of violin and VSTs and other instruments, and, you know, they're studio recorded. There's no way for me to translate that into something that someone could just play. Because also a lot of my arrangements are not even like violin solo centric, like they're orchestral. And so it's not even like I could just put out the melody line or something. I don't know. I might think about doing that a little bit more, just putting out simple melody lines for things. But my arrangements as they are in many, many cases are just not possible to release as sheet music because there's not really a good way to do that. And the third reason is, as I said before, I'm a single person. I have a toddler. I have very limited time, and it takes a lot of time to prepare something for sheet music. And, you know, I don't make a lot of money on sheet music sales at all, so there's not a lot of financial incentive for me to spend the massive amount of time it takes to prepare sheet music from older things to release. I am wanting to do it more, but it's not as high a priority as putting out new videos and albums and my other responsibilities in my personal life. So, you know, I put out sheet music as I can, and if it's not out, it's just not available. It doesn't exist in a form that I can release it in yet. So please don't ask. If it's not there, it's not available, and I'm sorry. What would be your advice for beginner string players? Get a teacher for a little while. I know that's not always possible for everyone, but I truly believe that violin is very hard to learn by yourself, especially in the beginning. So even if you could just get a few lessons at the start, just to help you kind of set up what you're doing, because once you learn bad habits, it's really hard to fix them later. So it's better if you kind of start with a fresh slate that way. Make sure you have a decent instrument. There's a lot of violins out there. We call them VSOs, which stands for violin-shaped object. They're not real instruments. They are just things that look like violins and sound terrible, if they even sound at all. You really want to have something that's of at least a certain quality in order to learn. Otherwise, like, the pegs are going to get stuck. You won't be able to tune it well, and other things that are just getting in the way of your progress. So going to a local shop is going to be the best way for you to find something reputable. If you do find a teacher to have some lessons with, you can ask them for advice. I wouldn't recommend buying anything online. I personally don't have any experience with that either, so I don't have like any ones of those that I can recommend. I think it's just always better to try it out yourself and see what's going to work best for you. Also, practicing 15 minutes a day is better than practicing 2 hours once a week. Consistency is key. Even you can do a lot with a little bit of time if you do it every day. Do you teach violin? What are some of the most encouraging and challenging aspects of teaching? I used to. I found it very challenging. I didn't like it that much. The thing is, my personality type and my strengths, I would be best suited for teaching like high school, college level, because I'm very cerebral in how I talk about, like, in my learning with violin. You know, I'm good at teaching how I was taught, and a lot of stuff with the violin didn't come naturally to me, so I have a lot of great solutions for how to work on stuff. I also really am not great at talking to children. I know I have a child now, but even since then, I get kind of like, I don't know how to talk to someone else's child, only my own. So yeah, and it's tough dealing with the parents too. It's hard when you have a student who doesn't practice and you're just saying the same thing over and over again. And, you know, some people have a real gift for teaching and making it fun and making their students motivated, like my mom is like that. But that's not me. That's not what I'm good at. And as I got more into YouTube, it became more difficult to sustain teaching out of my home because I was using my home for filming and recording and stuff. And so I'd have to tear down all the stuff and then put it back. And it was a lot. So I kind of gradually just tapered off teaching until I was done with that. But that said, I am interested in doing more educational content on here, like maybe song tutorials or just different things. I don't know. So I'm definitely in a phase where I'm soliciting all kinds of ideas and suggestions for stuff you might like to see. So please let me know what would be cool to see. All right. Thanks, y'all, for such fun questions to answer. I hope you enjoyed this. It came up in the Q&A a lot, but like if you have suggestions for me to do videos, I have a suggestion form for that. If you have ideas for me for stuff like educational or behind the scenes, basically non-music video content, I am definitely accepting suggestions for that. I want to know what you think. I am hoping to expand my content besides just music videos more these days because of just the nature of my time and what is more sustainable for me. So please let me know what you would be interested to see. I really want to know what would be most interesting for you all or beneficial or whatever. Let me know. I'm game to talk about anything really. So thank y'all so much. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.